So how many people out here have birthed? Raised by your hand. All right, we've got some non-birthed birthers out there. So I am actually here today to tell you that birth can be a very positive experience. I think that we have a long history of telling and out-telling each other horrible birth stories, one after the other, of how traumatic and awful and painful. But it took me 3 births in 4 years to get there. And you're going to get all 3 for the price of 1 in 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Baby number 1, I've got 3 girls. I had the clueless birth. That's awesome. I think you should all have a clueless birth sometime in your life. You just kind of like say okay to whatever the people in the hospital say. And you get like a self-administered button, and you can just give yourself drugs and it feels awesome, and your personality is the same, and you just feel nothing, and you sit around for like 24 hours, and then the baby comes out, she doesn't know how to breastfeed, and maybe you have to like intravenously put your breast milk through some colostrum tube through your finger or something. Hey, but it was easy, and I didn't know any better. Then the second baby felt some contractions. I went back to the hospital, and I went from 1 to 10 centimeters in an hour. But the nurse there, no one even checked me. They said, you should go home. You're only a centimeter. So I was like, well, I'm just feeling like maybe I should just stay here and walk around. So I walked around, and suddenly I started getting the shakes, and I was kind of like looking at these Christmas cards from other people who had had these great births, and I'm kind of wobbling on one foot, and my husband's just looking at me going 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he doesn't know what to do. And I went back to the nurse and I said, I'm dying, and she said, oh, pain is subjective. So I think it was probably about 20 minutes later, my water broke, and there was like a head coming out of my vagina, and I was like, yoo-hoo, I'm delivering a baby here in triage, and and all I could think was, I can't believe they're going to send me home, I can't believe they're going to send me home. So she basically shot out of me. They quickly put me on one of those gurneys, is that what they're called? And then instantly she started nursing. And I was like, wow, look at this, just like that, just instantly breast milk. And that child has stayed that intense ever since. Interesting how the birth story informs as time goes on. Well, with the 3rd child, I realized, God, my body can do some crazy stuff. Look at that. I was standing in a hallway and a baby fell out of me. Maybe I can do this myself. So I read the Ina May book. For those of you who don't know, read it. It's amazing. It's all about birthing on this farm, and this farm she has where there's like a 0% C-section rate, unlike the Brigham and Women's Hospital, which probably has a 99% C-section rate. And at 34 weeks, I told my OB, I was like, you know, I feel like that was kind of traumatic for me. You know, no one was listening to me. I felt like I was dying, and it was hard, too, that my husband wasn't able to support me in a way, and I was like, I don't want to think he's a dumbass for the rest of my life, you know, because he's got to be a dad. So I was like, and my OB looked at me and she said, don't you think trauma is a little bit strong of a word? And I was like, how dare you question me? And then it grew, and I knew I am going to have an Ina May birth. And I left at 34 weeks, and I found a doula, and I found a midwife, and I switched hospitals, and I said, I want a tub, and I am going to do this. And I switched to Newton Wellesley Hospital. I had a tub. I brought childhood paintings that my mother had made, mother and child, to the hospital. I brought an iPod with Erykah Badu, my favorite music. And when I first started having contractions, I didn't go to the hospital. I went to Crystal Lake, and I slow danced with my husband. And I felt the spirit, and I knew ever since that baby went straight to my breast, and I had more breast milk than any woman on earth, that I was an earth mother, and I was going to do it this way. And when I got there, I went in the tub, and I felt good. And things weren't as fast as before, but I didn't want to stay in that hospital. And then I realized, I'm not going to walk around a hospital and look at some ugly Christmas cards. I am out of here. And I knew I was breaking the rules, but I realized, wait, I'm in Newton, and I grew up in Newton, and my childhood home is right around the corner. And I left the hospital with my husband, with my doula and midwife, because they knew not to fuck with me. And we walked to my childhood home. And I stood on the lawn, and there was the woman gardening who had moved into this home of ours. And I said, I am in labor, and I grew up in this house. And she said, get the fuck off my property, you crazy woman. Actually, she said, yeah, you could come back after the baby, maybe. And it was so hot, and my breasts were down to here. I didn't care, I had no bra on. And I walked back to the hospital, and there, suddenly, I felt it coming on. And I did it just like those hippie Earth Mother videos, on all fours. And I was chanting, I can do it, I can do it. And my husband had a purpose. He was rubbing one leg, and then a doula was rubbing the other leg, and the midwife was pushing a magic spot in my back, and I had Erykah Badu playing. And then I felt it, and the baby was coming down. And I was like, this is so painful. And suddenly, in that moment, the pain turned to pleasure. And it was so embarrassing. And I never told anyone before now, but I was like, this feels amazing. It was the orgasmic birth. And I'm here to say, birth can be a very empowering and positive experience that now I can pass on to my 3 girls. Thank you.